Welcome to the FENS Forum 2024 podcast. I'm Malcolm Love, and it's my pleasure to present to you some of the forum's highlights from each day. 2 years ago, we were in Paris. This year, we're based at the mighty Messavine Conference Center in Vienna, Austria. Messavine is one of the most important conference and trade centers in Austria, sitting as it does close to the banks of the Danube. And this is Tuesday, day one of the forum. And queues were forming from about 8 a.m. this morning for people to register for the forum. Events started formally at 10 a.m. and participants' eyes might boggle at the huge number of choices available. Plenary lectures, special lectures, symposia, networking events, special interest events, awards ceremonies, open theatre, and a host of satellite events. There are over 88 countries represented here, 250 speakers, over 7,000 participants, over 4,000 poster presentations. So here, for Tuesday 25th of June, day one of the forum, are just a few highlights. The Brain Debate is an important, now well-established FENS Forum event. And tomorrow we'll be talking to Nandini Chatterjee Singh. Today we feature another of the speakers. Emily Cross is Professor of Cognition and Social Neuroscience at EHT Zurich. She came to neuroscience as a professional dancer, and this informs her work across neuroscience, aesthetics, AI and robotics, and leads to many collaborations with dance companies and others in the arts. I began by asking her about her interests.
Coming from a cognitive and social neuroscience background and kind of training and set of perspectives, I've always been really interested in how our experiences shape how we perceive others in this social world we live in, but also how we interact with and engage with them. So I really got my start in looking at motor expertise and how brain circuits are shaped by learning highly skilled actions. I did a lot with dance actually back in the day. And then also how having highly skilled motor repertoires, such as in dance or acrobatics or music, shapes how we perceive other people when they're moving around us. So that was really my background. That also led me a little bit to be interested in not just the kind of impacts of expertise on a neural level from a motor learning perspective, but also when we think about dance as a performing art, we also derive aesthetic pleasure from that. And the field of neuroaesthetics has been kind of developing over the past 2 decades or so. And my team was one of the first teams to really start to ask questions about the performing arts of dance and related disciplines and how the aesthetic response is manifest in the brain when we're beholding or participating in dance as more of an artistic endeavor. And then the whole bit with robots, this might sound a bit more left field, but we started using, we looked at a lot at how we perceive and perform human actions. Then we started using about 10 years ago, robotic actions as a control condition. But it turns out how we perceive robots doing actions and, robot agents in social contexts is really interesting in and of itself, not just in terms of how we might understand how humans collaborate and engage with robots in the future, but also from a basic neuroscience perspective, it can tell us a lot about kind of the flexibility and the adaptability of the human brain when we're interacting with agents that are not human, that are not our conspecifics.
That brings us very neatly to what we're going to be talking about, the brain debate. What kinds of things will you be saying, or what kinds of things are you interested in this particular area?
Well, I think pretty much anyone who's working in neuroscience and, so many, if not all of the FENS participants and contributors will be using AI in some way in their current research. Of course, we've used various AI-driven techniques in our analyses for years and years, and human neuroscience, such as in like multivoxel pattern analysis, dynamic causal modeling. So many of our human neuroimaging analyses have used AI-fueled analysis techniques for a really long time. But I think what this debate is going to be thinking about and capturing more isn't necessarily, AI-fueled analysis techniques, but more things that we've been looking at in UNESCO's International Bioethics Committee, such as, brain-computer interfaces, technologies where we are able to read out or even kind of read in what's going on in terms in individual people's brains and kind of what the ethical implications of this of these techniques might be. So this is something that I'm really hoping we'll be talking about and entering into in the brain debate, because it is a really topical issue where people who come from a neuroscience background and are using these techniques, I think we do have something to contribute and we do have something to say from a research front line. But I think kind of an overarching point, which I hope comes across from this debate, is like AI and neuroscience and AI and, in terms of the human brain, these approaches and its use as a tool is not a one size fits all challenge or opportunity. There is a lot to be said for this, and it'll be interesting to see which directions this debate actually takes.
And so your take on AI is a very positive one, is it?
I would say I'm an
Let's
AI
say
positivist, yes.
right, an AI optimist, perhaps.
Yes.
Yeah, because you'll be well aware that there are people who are saying, doom, doom, and
Doom,
the
doom,
the
gloom,
end
gloom.
of
It's all bad. It's
humanity
all
as we
dangerous.
know
So
it.
there is bad stuff and there is danger out there, but I
Sure.
don't think that means we have to pull away from good uses of AI and brain data.
Sure, of course. Do you have any ethical concerns?
Of course, many ethical concerns about AI. I think as soon as you start to monetize brain data, as soon as you start to monetize human creation, human spirit, human endeavors in the way that we're seeing companies such as OpenAI and many others with writing, with art, with other sorts of data that are available, we have to be thinking about ethics. Ethics have to be front and center. So UNESCO's International Bioethics Committee has published an entire ethical issues of neurotechnology report just over a year ago, which kind of surveys the landscape from the end of 2022, start of 2023, as to what the kind of real big ethical challenges were seen as at that time. And there are too many to list in this interview and in the debate, but there are many, many ethical challenges. And I think we need to keep ethics at the front and center of our conversations about this. And sometimes, perhaps oftentimes, ethics and profit are very much at loggerheads with each other. And this is not a reason to just kind of obviously sidestep ethics for the sake of profit. But hopefully, many, many people who are interested in the development of these technologies and who bring the neuroscience expertise to how these technologies might be able to have really beneficial clinical or even commercial opportunities will not be just completely taken over by the profitability, the potential profitability of these technologies, and that we will keep ethics front and center, because once the cat is out of the bag with these technologies, it's going to be really hard to kind of claw them back. So we want to be having ethical regulations happening in lockstep with these developments as they're released to the public.
Professor Emily Cross there, who took part in the brain debate earlier today. This year, the forum is hosted by the Austrian and Hungarian neuroscience societies, and earlier I spoke to Professor Sigismund Hook. He's a very experienced officer of FENS and has chaired many a committee in his time, an experience he describes with a big smile as quite crazy. And of course, he happens to be the committee chair of the host country. So I talked with him a little before the start of the forum and began by asking him what the job means to him.
For me, I would say it's a little bit of saying goodbye to FENS, because this will definitely be my last major job with FENS. And it's also, I was also funding the Austrian Neuroscience Association many years ago. And it's also, I would say, a little present also to my colleagues, because, of course, there is an additional push then for our society. We have new members and new initiatives. I have to say also a little bit, I'm doing this also for Vienna, I have to say, for the city. I hope we will succeed in putting some special flavor to the Vienna meeting. Not only because it's a city of Vienna, but also I have a vision that even this big meeting can be kind of a personal thing. That is, going to a meeting, it's actually also, it's not only crazy for somebody who organizes something like this, but in fact, it's also a little bit crazy for the people who are visiting. You're coming to a meeting I am now talking about the FENS Forum. We expect some, not quite as many as in Paris, but something like 7,500 people. So we have more than 4,000 abstracts. We have 54 symposia in parallel. You can't visit everything. You can't attend all the lectures. So you have to pick out what suits you on one hand. But in addition, and this is a difficult task, I want it personal. I'm kind of a little bit crazy about this personal aspect. I want to connect with people. I want to see people. I have set up a student committee, student host society committee. And this, I hope, together with, the environment that we have in Vienna and with the convention center, I hope that we will succeed to really have it personal, and the students are doing very well in this. So we were setting up contacts. We were contacting other student organizations or young scientists organization. We have a student booth in Vienna. They have set up programs. They have started social media contact and so on. They are really very busy, and I have great hopes that we can achieve as good as possible to get into personal contact with not everybody, but with many of them. So, for example, they have set up what they call a buddy system. So students can register in advance already. They have a registration site. They can register, and they state, we want to meet somebody. This is my interest, and so on and so forth. Because the students, even more than I can probably do, can confer their enthusiasm of the students, of the young people.
Professor Sigismund Huck there. Networking events are an important part of the Forum programme, and they cover a number of themes. I managed to catch up with an organiser of one such meeting.
So I'm Patricia Gaspar. I'm the chair of the CHET committee, which is the Committee for Higher Education and Training at the FENS. And as a researcher, I'm interested in neurodevelopmental disorders.
So, Patricia, can you just tell us about the event that you are organising? It's a networking event here about multidisciplinarity. Can you just explain what that is?
Yeah, so the idea is that the science is evolving at a rapid pace, as you know, and what happens is that we have to evolve in not only in the techniques, but also in the concepts that are arising. And so I can see a lot of movement. So myself, I came from medical school to science, which is more traditional, but I see more movement like from mathematics, physics to biology, and then biologists also needing to have more computing tools or modeling tools, theoretical tools in maths that they need to acquire. And this is really a challenge because, each of these trainings is quite separate. So, having lived through that and seeing my young colleagues, strive through that, I'm interested to see how, researchers deal with this and how we can improve this in both in teaching, how this also affects sometimes the career path, because, if you're labeled into one discipline in your career, it's sometimes difficult to get a career job in another discipline and so on. And also for the funding, how that is. So the idea was to have people coming from these different, fields and discuss, and share, their experience and give advice to the younger generation on how to deal with this.
But of course there is, as you're implying, a much increased mental load on people these days. Do you think you can really deal with it, or there comes a point when we go, stop, we just have to deal with this in a completely different way?
Yeah, maybe. So I think the what is happening is that you have, from my opinion, is that one has to shift from I do everything myself to I'm part of a big team, and what can somebody else do, and how can we understand each other and work together? So I think that's the one of the way I see that you don't have to learn everything. For myself, learning to program in Python, I'm not capable to do that. So maybe I just, want to discuss, but find a way to discuss with somebody who has the expertise, and how we can get together.
And that puts a premium on the idea of trust, doesn't it? If you're going to work in this way, one of your career skills is learning to trust people.
Yes, exactly, and to find some mutual understanding, also in terms of ambition, shared ambition. You don't want somebody to take over and take the whole power to himself or to herself, but to share not only the workload, but also the recognition and the positive outcomes, not only the negative ones. Yeah. So,
Patricia, thanks very much for telling us about your event. We wish you the very best.
Thank you so much, Malcolm. That was fun to talk to you. Yeah?
Patricia Gaspar there. Organising a forum is, of course, a huge affair. There's the venue and the logistics, of course, and someone has got to decide on the content. This year, the chair of the scientific programme committee is Professor Lisette Menendez de la Prida. She's also part of the Cajal Institute in Madrid, which we talk about, but I began by asking about the job and the considerations the committee has to make.
We are responsible of drafting the program, and for us what is important is to identify in which direction the community is moving, what are the main interests for the community to cover, so that we can have a very inclusive program which target most of the different aspects that are currently being researched by the community. So we try to be at the same time to keep the consolidated fields, because neuroscience is a large field with many directions which already are mainstream for the neuroscience community, but also to include the new trends that we envisage for the next years to come, and that these could be properly reflected in the program. So basically that is a major drive for us.
Is there anything that you are particularly looking forward to hearing at this year's forum?
Yes. So for me, as a chair this year, I was trying to emphasize a lot that personally I wanted to have different brains. So traditionally neuroscience has been very much focused in rodent brains, mostly because this is how we basically, many of us do research, but there are other species. And in the recent years, we are expanding this comparative neuroscience approach to try to understand the function of the brain in different species. And this is very important because, of course, there is not only one brain. There is the human brain, there is the rodent brain, but also whales, insects, birds. And we can learn from all these different brains and different nervous systems. So this was one major direction for me. And the other major direction for me was on how neuroscience and basic research in neuroscience could effectively impact into the clinical solutions. And in these directions, we were also trying to have these new and emerging trends in the program.
Is there any particular item that you are really excited about?
Well, I mean, I am very happy about the program that we finally drafted, and very excited for what is coming. Particularly, I mean, of course, I cannot detail all of them, and you can go over the website. So this doesn't reflect really, I mean, because there is a range, but particularly happy about the fact that we are exploring brain-body interactions and how the field of neuroimmunology is emerging. Also regarding the new strategies in restoration of mobility in people who has tetraplegia. And these strategies stemming from basic research are now translated into the clinics, and this is also very exciting. Particularly happy about listening about other brains and this evolutionary perspective regarding how the brain functions. So I think these are just some examples of what is coming that I found exciting about.
And I imagine, of course, that it's all gone incredibly smoothly and there haven't been any problems or any anxieties, and that you sleep really well at night.
Me personally, I try to sleep very well at night. Sometimes you manage to do it in spite of circumstances. Yes.
You are a professor at the Cajal Institute in Madrid. I don't want to let you go without asking you to tell us just a little bit about the connection between the Cajal Institute and the FENS Forum, because FENS has a very strong relationship with the Cajal Institute.
Well, I had a friend who worked in art, and one day I asked him, what is a classic? And he told me a classic is something that if you remove from history, everything falls down from there on. So the relationship between Cajal and FENS is that if we remove Cajal, we remove neuroscience from the knowledge base. So basically, Cajal is the father of neuroscience. Cajal was the first who proposed the idea that neurons are the building blocks and the communication between neurons are what makes our brain so essential. He called this a forest, the beautiful forest. And I think that without Cajal, everything would be totally different. So there is this direct historical link. And of course, since then, neuroscience has evolved and become a field itself, and it's one of the major fields which is advancing our knowledge, impacting the most, as you can see, in many directions, like artificial intelligence is emerging from neuroscience. Without neuroscience and the basic concepts that Cajal posed, it could be impossible to have artificial intelligence. And neuroscience is about the brain, and the brain is about ourself, and the brain is about how we feel, how we act, our memories, our life, the hopes, the dreams. So it's all around. So I think that the connection is quite strong.
Professor Lisette Menendez de la Prida there, finishing our podcast highlights for today, Tuesday, 25th of June. Don't forget to join us again for tomorrow's podcast. In the meantime, from Messa Wien, have a very good evening. The FENS Forum podcast was presented by me, Malcolm Love. Music is by Dennis Kishchuk. And this was a FENS production by Solid Gold Hat.